squared up. Squared up so I feel right. Okay, that'll do. That'll do. Hello, and welcome to my show. So glad to be back. It's been a minute. Um, um, I just, this is the, let's see if I can act like I've done this before. So I had my, holiday hiatus. So it's been about a month since we had a new show. But I'm glad. I really needed the time off. And I really was able to get some relaxation going on and have a good time. Enjoy myself a little bit. Just catching up on being human after a hell year. So it really helped. Yeah, I know. Pan was in here for like the last 10 minutes and then he just left. He doesn't like it. He doesn't like the sound of raised voices. So he's just like, nope, I can't relax in here. So he's gone. And I think I hear fighting from some neighbors outside. I'm not sure. I was kind of just like tuned in trying to listen. Like, is that a very loud television or is that an argument? You never know what it's going to be. And when you live in a neighborhood, I guess, or just live anywhere where there are people. So no, I don't think there is fighting to conclude on that. But anyway, glad to be back. And not glad to be wearing a face full of makeup. I can feel everything and my eyes feel like they're on fire. So not loving that, but everything else, I'm happy to be back and glad to be sharing all that's been going on. I was able to actually get like a decent bit of rest over the holidays. I didn't get to necessarily celebrate them the way that I would have wanted to, but I think that's probably the case for most of us, being that things have been so fucking awful. So, just generally speaking in life, I think 2023 was pretty much like the worst year yet. The pandemic years have been pretty much horrible, but I think this one was the worst one yet. And this year it reminded me of, it's like, when you see those YouTube videos of when the Roomba runs over like dog shit and then just drags it and tracks it all over the entire house, and then the owners come home and they're like, there's nothing they can do in that moment of horror and shock except for to film it, because like it's the worst thing that they could imagine having happen, and they just need other people to see and to know that like this is the worst dog shit year of all time, and this is the worst dog shit moment. So I think that this has been, just especially for me, just how much stuff I had to cram in, how much work I had to cram in, just moving it, a really unhuman, unnatural pace. And I think that's probably the case for a lot of us, and everybody, is starting to wake up to the idea that we're pretty damn tired of being in survival mode all the time and never getting a break and never getting rest. So I hope, that you all got a little bit of rest. But I think one thing is for sure, it's not enough. One time a year for a few days is not enough. So we hopefully we'll be able to start getting the national mindset or global mindset to start pivoting on those kinds of things, which it looks like they are. But that's a conversation for another show, which I'll talk about in a little bit. But yeah, so thank you all for joining me, whether you're live with me now or whether you're going to be watching later or listening later, as people do. So where do I want to begin? Oh, well, yeah, okay. So yeah, I did get a bit of a break. So I wasn't like, it's kind of hard to be like, oh, I stopped doing stuff. Where am I in the process of doing stuff? Just for me mentally, like it's hard to know where to begin to say like, oh, this is going on, this is going on, because stuff is going on, has been going on, stuff is going on right now, and then stuff is going to be going on. So it's sort of like, where do I stop and start, like get the snow globe snow to settle down so that I can discuss what's going on. So for those of you who are Buster fans, thank you so much to those of you who have purchased my book. I really, really appreciate it. It was such a big process and a big bunch of work. Yes, thank you. Someone just commented that they've seen that there's been a lot of good reviews, which is that I was actually getting ready to get into that. Well, first of all, the movie which, as you may know, I don't know. It's kind of weird to think. I mean, I want to catch everybody up, but I feel like it's like if you're starting to watch me at like episode 15, maybe, like, boop, maybe hit that back button a little bit. But okay, so just FYI, the movie, the documentary, which is the part one of all of this, Oh Buster, Where Art Thou? It's still getting a lot of good attention, a lot of good likes and things like that. It recently just crossed over 23,000 views. 23,000? Yeah. Yeah, something like that. So it's still chugging along. And which I'm glad people are still really enjoying it. And my hope for it was, well, obviously I wanted to make sure that people could see it. First of all, that's why it's free on YouTube and in its entirety. But as I have noticed over the years, Buster's always gaining new audiences, and his style of work is really, really compatible with how we process things on the internet. The TikTok kind of mindset where it's like, here's a clip reel of his greatest stunts. There's some really funny moments, and he's really, really resonating right now. Not just with people who already know him and are like, oh yeah, I love those stunts. This is a cool video of his reel, but of like, really young people, kids who, are watching like parkour videos or video game videos, and that kind of stuff comes up because it kind of thematically fits into that narrative. And so I'm seeing a lot of really young people, maybe more so than ever, are finding out about him and are like, wow, this is super cool. And then they're doing their own searches, like, I got to find out more about this guy. So then they ultimately find the movie. And I've talked to a couple of people that have reached out to me who said, oh, I'm 16, I'm 17. My mom knew who Buster was when I asked her. I saw a clip, a highlight reel, and I asked her to watch some movies with me, and we've been really enjoying these shorts and these full lengths and stuff. So I think that's probably the most rewarding thing about it. It's like, like people who are already film fans or already fans of his, like, yeah, they're going to enjoy it, but it's like, it's really cool to see new people coming in of all ages, I guess you would say, but like, especially young people who are like, able to enjoy in these bite-sized moments of things that are like 100 years old, right? And it's kind of mind-blowing just generally. Like, I have to kind of set myself back a little bit some of the time and think like, okay, I'm in this deep, so I don't necessarily always think about what it's like to like be there, like, or come into it. I remember what it was like when I first did, but it took me kind of a while even in that to metabolize, and I was an adult already, but it took me a while to metabolize some of these things are 100 years old. Media has been around, movies have been around so long that we've gone through all these different eras, and we can watch something right now on our little phone, internet boxes, whatever, and it's 100 years old, and it's and it's things that are like 100 years old. Like, just think about that for a second. Like, it doesn't seem like you should be able to connect with anything. Yeah, and somebody just said that their grandchild, their single digit grandchild was I think it's a 3-year-old grandchild would laugh, and that's true too. I forgot all about that. Little kids love to watch him fall down. I've been at screenings of his films, where you just hear children laughing, just hysterically laughing, like it's funny as any cartoon ever was to them, just to watch the way that he spins out, falls down, over and over again, and that just really resonates with young people, and people of all ages. So it's like, we look back and we say, this guy who was making things, all these years, that was this old, yet are still super, super good, super relevant. That's pretty amazing. It's pretty fucking cool, honestly. So it's not hard to see how I've gone down this road. I do have to say the fanfare has definitely changed around him. Like, when he really kind of had this renaissance about 15 years ago, where he was kind of rediscovered by the internet. And that was when it was first started to click, with people. So, I have seen the landscape change somewhat. More young people come in, more people, I don't know if it's necessarily the number wise of people attracted to him, like attracted to his appearance. Um, but I'm seeing a lot more of it. I could tell you that because it's funny. I think I mentioned this. I know I've talked about it in some interviews, and I may have mentioned it here. It's brain scramble at this point. But in his time, he was not considered, um, universally attractive. He was not considered like ugly dude, but he was a comedian, and people did not look at comedians in a sexy way. They were not looking at him like that. So it took all these years later for people to be like, damn, look at this guy, right? So that's another aspect, and I don't really care what brings people in. Like, enjoy him how you like to enjoy him. When I first found out about him, I was in that crowd too. Now it's old hat for me, but you should get what you get out of him, and I'm really excited about the fact that I've had so many views and so many kind comments, and I've heard from people of all ages and all demographics, I guess you'd say, who are enjoying the film and things like that. And the same so far has been true with the book, which looks like this. Again, if you're on episode 15 and you haven't seen it yet, just FYI. Now ignore the banner because that's just my author's copy. When you buy an author's copy from Amazon, this is what they look like. They put a banner on it because they don't want you to try to resell this. Anyways, this is what it looks like. It's beefy. It's nice. It's got some cool shit in it. And this is the follow-up to the movie. So this is like the second part of everything I couldn't get into the movie. Oh, this is Sorry, Charlie, by the way. This is my first book. And it's good, but it's got some kind of weird formatting issues a little bit, but nothing that would, if you want to read, if you read and you liked Another New World and you're into the way that I write stuff, you could check it out. It's cool. I've also got more books in the works, which I'll talk about a little bit here in a minute, and I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. Anyways, I've gotten some really, really kind feedback about the book. People seem to really be enjoying it. I never, I don't know if I go back at the time that I made the movie and I think about the way that the book went, I feel like I didn't have to work too hard to evoke emotion. I didn't, I just tell stories in the way that I tell stories. If the emotion's there, it's there. I don't try to, like I watched a documentary not long ago, and it was just like they were trying. Like, it was a sad story, for real. But, like, they were, like, the whole documentary was set up around the idea of, like watching somebody die, and, like, but, like, you didn't really get the sense of who the person really was or their deal, necessarily, because it was so heavy about trying to say, like, this is so sad, you should feel so sad right now. And it's like, please stop manipulating me and let me make my own assumptions, right? Like, let me even find out if I would like this person, right? Or if I feel like that, if I feel like I should tap into that level of empathy. I don't necessarily know that. So I don't go out of my way to try to manipulate any audience. But I have found that people really seem to be very emotionally connected to Buster. And his character, his little fellow character, in the way that he conducted himself through all of his films, had that level of emotion. And, that's what always made such good comedy, is he was this sort of like alien come to Earth trying to figure out where to get a meal, right? Like, that was a lot of the early ones. Like, and it was just not working out for him a lot of the time. So he always had this gentleness, this approach to things where he was just very observant, where he kind of just tried to watch things, and he'd get swept up in things, and things would happen to him, and then he'd have to find his way out of it. So he was the one, that really, really knew how to evoke emotion, whether it was laughter or whether it was empathy, or whether it was even sadness, like something that like made you feel like you could cry from sadness or something. And being that he was such a good dude in life and be loved by so many, he didn't have to work that hard at it, at being liked and being loved. And so I never really went out of my way to make people feel like they should like be having the feelings, and just that he brought that to me is the way I see it. But I've heard from people both about the movie and the book that they end up crying. And it's funny, like, I'm not really like a super emotional person unless like a show is ending. Like, that's like my trigger, right? We just finished Ted Lasso, and it's like, that kind of thing. And Letterkenny, I got emotional at the end of Letterkenny. So I'm not really like a feelings on display type of a person. Like everybody got their weird triggers, right? So, but I've been hearing that quite a bit, that for a couple years here now, that he really evokes those feelings, and that they really like get emotional over him and emotional at the end of the things that I do. And it's when I first, and going back to what I was trying to say about myself, me, my show, me. When I first um figured out that, because for a while after making the movie I didn't know what to do with it, because I felt like I was did not want to put it on a streamer. Like, yeah, sure, I could do that. That's how this is done. I could do that. But then, like, okay, that's one tiny paying audience gets to see it, and then nobody else. And then, curiously, right around the time that I was trying to figure out what could I do, um, I saw the multi-part documentary Hellier, and they discussed in the beginning of their film that they worked with people who were putting full-length films on YouTube, and then that's where that was at, until it made the jump to Amazon or in some of the other streamers. And I was like, oh shit, that's the answer. I could put this out somewhere where people can see it for free. I know you can charge on a YouTube thing as well, but that's not what I wanted to do. It was not ever about making money. It was about, when you make movies, you do not make money independently. You lose money. So and the money was long gone. So I had not had any kind of illusions of making any kind of great fortune off of it. So I was like, no, this is the way for sure. So then that inspired me to get it ready, to get it in shape, to go, do all the things that needed to be done to get it ready to go online in that way. So again, being that I don't really do emotions too much, when I first got it ready, I hadn't seen it in quite a while, and I was checking it for quality, and I was sitting there, I got my headphones on, and I'm checking the end of it, the end of the film, the last part of it, was kind of sums everything up and sums Buster up. If you haven't seen it, if you have, you don't. And then I'm just like, I like, it was just like this cut loose moment of just like total, like, I went through hell to make this movie, and like it's all coming together, and I'm seeing that I actually don't feel like I needed to improve on this. Like, this is something I really like, and I'm just like, I just lost my shit. Just absolute like crazy. And I'm like, hold on, like, everything's fine, like, but I just like completely cut loose, and I still personally get kind of choked up at the end of it, because it is about Buster to me. That's why I'm here. But it was also, it was such a catharsis. It was such a moment, about going through all of that and then coming out the other side of it. So I too get emotional at the end of the movie. And then I am now hearing, since the book is new, the movie's been out for, I don't know, since the end of 2022. And the book came out the end of last year. And now people have kind of finished it now, and I read it, and they're starting to leave feedback about it and reach out to me and stuff. And I'm hearing that that they kind of had the same thing happen to them at the end of the book. So it's just, I think it's just, he's so easy just to go there with, So I didn't. If you're like, God damn it, quit making me cry, sorry, I'm not trying to do that. I don't think I really have to. I don't have to work hard at bringing the emotion. There's a lot of other stuff I have to work hard at, but when it comes to him being an emotional person and evoking those feelings, it's not something I'm going out of my way to do. So if you haven't read the book yet, it's out there on digital, paperback, and hard copy. And I got the paperback here, is what I showed you. So once again, real quick, before we move on, looks like this. Pretty big. I was actually surprised. I thought even though I made the sizes, I was anticipating it was going to be a little more like this one, but it's actually like quite a lot bigger, but it needs to be. And then, there's more Buster stuff in the works from me, just not right now. I'm on a Buster break. I've been doing this we're going on 14 years now. So I need a minute, I need a minute. And I think Buster's cool with that. But the next volume of the book will be picture, like the book in pictures. And the pictures will be restored and colorized properly, not by an AI or an app or something like that, but colorized properly by me. And it's going to be the book, but basically in pictures. And it's not going to just be like, here's a picture book. It's going to be, kind of the tabletop book style. And so you know what you're getting this time. And it's going to be presented in a way that you haven't seen before, like this book. So it's gonna be different. That was always the thing that I was able to do, is the work that I was doing and the way that I was doing it. I was able to bring something different to the Buster world, and from what I could tell, it's enjoyable and people are liking it. So that's what's going on with all that stuff. And I'm glad. I'm glad to be hearing from people. I'm glad people are sharing it and talking about it and enjoying it. And so thankful that they're leaving me Amazon reviews, because every time, if you are watching this and you are reading it or have read it, and please, please, please leave an Amazon review, because the more that it gets, the more visibility the book gets to the Amazon market, in terms of recommendations, like other people bought and they show you this book. So it really helps other Buster fans, because I'm out there, I talk to people, I'm in the groups and all this and that, I'm on the social medias and doing the hashtags and whatnot, but I can't get to everybody. And it's, what's interesting is I'm in a lot of Buster Facebook groups and classic film and silent film, and I'll go back and, after not having talked about the book for a minute or the movie for a minute, I'll go back and say something about it or share an interview I've done or something like that. Just, stimulate the content pool. And people will be like, oh, I didn't know about this movie. I didn't know about this book. And I'm always so surprised, because I'm like, oh my God, I've been talking about it so much. I feel like I'm beating people over the head with it at this point. And especially in these groups and things like that. So I'm always surprised when people are like, where do I see the movie? How do I see it? Where do I buy the book? So please tell people, please share, please tell people, please leave reviews. It helps. It really, really, really helps. I'm not making anything hardly off of any of this, so it's not about that. Like, basically, whether you publish traditionally or self-publish, it's a racket no matter what. You don't make a real profit unless you're like a celebrity or a murderer or something like that, and then they advance you hundreds of thousands of dollars. But if you're just a regular person working, it's not like a way to make a living, really. So, with that being said, it's really more, again, about sharing with the Buster community. If new Buster people are coming around, that kind of a thing. It's, good to share with them. And I just want people to be able to have access to these things. That's, again, why I kept the prices of the book as low as possible. To make sure that it was as much to be as affordable as possible to people. I just really, really hope that if, even if you didn't enjoy it and you want to rail around about how bad and you hated it, leave a review, please. Please leave Amazon reviews. It's super important to be able to get that out to other Buster people. So thank you, thank you, thank you to those who have purchased and shared. Please keep sharing, and leave reviews. So, okay. Moving on. So again, this last kind of break away from all this work, I was in such a negative place working on this book, just because I decided, when I started doing these shows, I've been doing them over a year at this point. I'm not exactly sure when. I think they started the end of 2022, so pretty well over a year. But it was around March of last year that I was like, all right, it's time to make a deadline for this book and quit telling people it's coming, but actually get it out there. So that's what I did. And I made the deadline for the end of last year. And it was, I kind of felt like it was a nightmare scenario for me, because I just worked on it endlessly. Absolutely endlessly. It was not like I didn't take, I don't really recall, it's kind of a blur at this point, but I don't really recall taking any kind of real breaks, maybe for a few hours at a time, but every single day for months and months, like a year basically. It was get up, work on it all day, go to bed, get up, work on it all day, go to bed, and then not really stop for anything. And then I think we all know that that's pretty unsustainable. Plus, trying to just like survive life, as how horrible things have been, just generally in our lives, and what a crap ass year it's been. So, it was just like all these factors were kind of coming in and just beating down on me. And I was really, really, and I talked about it a lot over the, past few years of working on it, that I've really been in like Jack Torrance mode. Like, it's just, just going and going and going and slowly going crazy over the whole thing. And it's like, yeah, of course I love doing it, and of course I love doing what I'm doing, but there comes a point where the work is, on a deadline, and there's so much of it, and there's so much to do, and it just doesn't stop. It's, it stops being fun, and it starts being maddening, and really upsetting, and problematic. But that's part of the process. I'm out of it now, so it's like, and I had this little bit of a break, so I've had kind of some time to think about how things are going to go, because it wasn't just the editing, it wasn't just the cover design, it wasn't just working on photos before I realized I was going to have to cut the photos and make those their own thing. It wasn't just that. It was like I was also doing tons of interviews at this time. It was like every single moment of my life was accounted for, and I just couldn't catch my breath, and it was horrible, and I hated it. So in having this break, I've really come to realize, like, I don't have any real business doing that to myself again, even though more books are going to come out, more art I'm going to be making, but I need to handle it differently. I need to handle it in a better way. And so going forward, I'm still going to be doing my shows here, and you're still going to hear from me online, but I'm going to try to step it back a little bit, and just not be so over the top about where I am, what I'm doing, interview. I can't block out my schedule that way again. I need some breathing room going forward, and I need to also be able to focus on some other things. I wasn't, almost for pretty much the whole year, wasn't able to do like any art recreationally or commercially at all, and that doesn't work for me. And then putting out the book at the time of the at the end of the year, where I normally do my soap making and sales, I couldn't do that. I couldn't fit that in. Um, so there was a lot of things that were happening that I knew I was working towards a greater good, but it did not feel that way. There was nothing about it that felt good at all. It was really, really tremendously awful, is what I can say. So I'm glad to have it out. I don't regret having done any of it, but the movie was a really, really hard thing to go through, and the book was a really hard thing to go through. Personally, just hard to go through. So, I just don't want to put myself in that kind of crazy situation again. So, so going forward, I'm just not going to be like, out and about as much. As you just won't, like, it's just not going to be as much. If people still want to ask me for interviews and stuff, I'll do them. But, I'd like some more space. I'm not going to schedule everything, as tightly as I did. Because, when you look at the new year, it's sort of this sort of, it's not really anything just because the calendar changes, but there is, I think, for all of us, sort of this metaphysical and this metaphorical new start type of a thing, where it's like the last year was, and then now we're okay, and everything's, man, this is gonna be different. So I am gonna, and I'm trying to look at things in a bigger picture, not just like trying, being in survival mode like we all are. It's just ruining life completely. It's really hard to see the bigger picture, but I'm trying to look at it kind of in a bigger chunk of space, so that I can not get all bound up that way that I had been before. But that that being said, I do have some other things going on and some other things starting up. I just know that also I just need to make more time to make some art and to work on art. And I have another book coming up. I'll talk about that in a minute. I have another book I'm working on, not Buster related, but again, there's going to be more Buster projects. I've got a work in progress list a mile long, whether it's Buster or not Buster. And the idea now, after what I had gone through last year and getting the book out and everything like that, like, I kind of came to this conclusion, like, okay, I don't need to, like, be so concerned about everybody in the world hearing about what I'm doing, about hearing about it. It's going to do what it's going to do. So I need to not be so worried about audience building, or worried about if I'm not audience building, or if I'm not doing enough, or whatever, because I've done nothing and I've done everything, and it's just not, I'm so niche and I'm so all over the place. I don't really have a lot of things that people can be like, oh, I love everything you do, because I'm all over the place. So I get that. So, so going forward, I'm going to be just kind of more focused on the work, less focused on making sure everybody knows about it. You're going to know about it. You're not going to know about it. I can't control the world. So, I know I need to, and in this break, I was actually able to go back to some art too. And I do have a Redbubble. A lot of my art goes there. Some stuff can't go there, because they don't allow, I do a lot of portraiture work from like movies and stuff. So some stuff they allow, some stuff they don't. But I also do like abstracts and patterns, and I design for the clothing items that they've got there. So, and I've got probably, it's not exactly 1,000 designs of different things, but it's close. So if you go to my Redbubble and it's Nicolette Abides, like the dude abides, Nicolette Abides, no caps, no spaces, no dashes, nothing like that. Then you can see everything. They don't really organize things very well on the website. I've told them like so many times, I've sent so much feedback and complaints, be like, please make it easier for people to find things on people's, shops when you got a great big shop. Because when you go to their website and you look at my shop, it's just like, here's a gigantic dump of stuff. So it's really hard to find what you're looking for. I've asked for internal search functioning. They're not there yet. They managed to figure out how to charge people money, but they haven't really done anything as far as the user interface to make it easier. So I apologize for that, but there's nothing I can do about it. I've tried. So, but I do these things. I was able to get back into my art because I do these things, which I call longitudinal projects. And probably a lot of artists have this kind of thing, but I'm not really one that like has projects that I just get abandoned and never go back to. And I think that's also what I really love about digital work, is you can always just pick it right back up. It doesn't matter if it's been 10 years or 5 minutes. So I have stuff that I work on that it's like these really huge canvas abstract pieces that take a long time to do. And then I have portraits that are really difficult, and they, that maybe after I worked on it for a minute, I get tired of it, or my schedule gets away from me and I can't work on it. But I was able to open up 2 of my old projects and my longitudinal projects that I've been working on. And one is this really complicated Zentangle, and one is a portrait of a donut at kind of weird angles. So I've been working on those kind of concurrently, and I've had the chance and the time to be able to work on them. So those will be available at some point. But, I've got lots of stuff. I've got available on my Redbubble. I do share them on my socials, but I have to share them with watermarks because my stuff gets stolen all the time and resold. But also, by putting watermarks over everything, it really messes up AI being able to source it. And I get a lot of people looking at my art because I do my portrait style, or my realism style it's magical realism, but it looks really real. And there's a lot of AI pictures out there that it looks very similar to, but I was doing this before that crap started. So, but people don't know that. So it's like, if I share my stuff in an art group, I have to like come out and say, this is not AI. I actually painted this. I painted it every stroke. It was very difficult. Well, after I developed my styles, it wasn't difficult. Like, once you get your methodology, you know what you're doing, just like anything. But it's like, I always feel like people don't believe it, or they want to see some sort of progress video or something like that. And it's just like, it's real. It's real. So I don't do anything half-ass. I do everything whole ass. So I taught myself to paint and do that, and it takes a long, long, long time. So I'll have some new stuff coming out. And I thought about maybe doing like, I investigated the whole like painting on Twitch, using Twitch and doing like live painting and live drawing and stuff like that. But then it was really complicated of a process, and for me, like, the making of art is like supposed to be like a therapeutic type of a thing, and a thing that's like sort of just for me, that I don't, I'll share the finished product with you, I'll share production gifts I make with you, but I felt like if I did that, it would just sort of be like taking away what makes it good for me. So so I decided against doing that. So I'm not going to do that. And I do have more plans for more art in the future, more portraits. I've been kind of working for a while on this idea of like, I really like it when you see pictures of like really brightly colored candy, or like cupcakes, or like really bright treats and things like that. So I'm thinking kind of this Candyland. I have made Candyland from Candyland drawings, or paintings, but I'm thinking about like, stuff like that. So I will have new stuff coming to my shop. You can follow my shop on Redbubble. You can just save it or whatever. And I'm not able to post regularly, but I've got everything of every kind that you could imagine there. You just have to sift through it. So, but I got more coming, and that's another big thing about what I have to do this year is I realized that um, I was working so hard on the book and everything else that was taking away from something that fundamentally I have to do to stay sane. So I'm going to be making time for more art for sure. And then when these longitudinal projects are done, I will start more longitudinal projects. But I do have ones that you could tell have been really long-standing projects, whether they're portraiture or whether they're like more Zentangle style. But that's something this year that I'm going to be focusing on a lot more is being able to um, have more time for art. And I've got another book in the works, which I talked about a little bit. And it's a I call it a paranormal thriller, but it does border on horror if that's your thing. Because I don't have a I don't have a I'm sorry, I was reading a comment and I lost my train of thought. I don't have like just like the art. I don't have one style. I do all kinds of things. So I write in all kinds of style. I'm not going to be doing another thing like this Buster book again, probably ever, because it was just too rigid of a format to have to conform to facts and reality and things that actually happened. Whereas in fiction, I can play God, and if I want to do something, I do it. Or if I make a mistake and then I decide that I like it, I keep it. So I want that freedom back, and I also longitudinal stories that I've been, I think a lot of writers do this, that, you work on things and you keep redeveloping and you keep redeveloping. But I didn't really have a very clear outlet for stuff before. But now that I have an outlet for my art that I can maybe sell a little bit of, and not that it's gonna like, save the Goondocks or anything, but it's out there, people can enjoy it and people can buy it. And now that I've got, a set idea about publishing, because the first time I did it with Sorry Charlie, it was just kind of trying out the process, seeing what it was like. So that book probably could have used, some more thought put into the edits and things like that about it. But it's readable for sure. Someday I might get back to it and edit it. I don't know. But now that I have an outlet for the art that I can make a little money off of and that people can enjoy, and I have an outlet for the books that I can make a little money off and people can enjoy. I'm much less worried about making this, big splash with everyone everywhere all the time about everything. So, because my true calling, I feel like, is just making things, not necessarily marketing or talking about the things. I do the best I can here, but this is kind of where my limits are at. So I want to make the things. I need to get back to the fundamentals about what I do. And oh, sorry, I thought it was it was, never mind. I just heard a weird noise. It's okay. But everything's fine. But nobody's fighting. So no, that's a big thing about this. And I think it's a time that we all kind of have these kind of conversations at the beginning of a year, where they're like, I cannot repeat my last couple of years. I cannot do things at the pace I was doing. I really have to think about things. And that's really what I've done. I've thought about like, okay, what matters the most to me? Where do I need to be? Where does my attention need to be on things? And that is creation. I have to do what is fundamentally right for me. And I can't be spreading myself so thin anymore by, spending so much time worrying about social media and just hopping from interview. So I'm going to have to just leave that up to everybody who enjoys things to find me for a little while. Well, I create, and I'm going to keep making art. I'm going to keep making of all kinds, and I'm going to keep working on my book. I'm just not going to set a rigid deadline. I'd like to get it done and have it ready for the end of the year again, just like this last one. It may or may not happen. But it's something this is one of the ones I've been working on and off for about 20 years, and it's time to have, now that I've got this, I've got the publishing process down, and I know what I need to do to make that happen. I feel much more comfortable and confident about it, so I will be able to have that out at some point. But it's right in the beginning phases of the story exists. It's changed a lot of the ways, in a lot of forms. It actually started initially when I was getting into screenplay writing, but I realized I hated screenplay writing, so I don't do that anymore. So It's changed out of screenplay form into book form. And then I managed to get, I don't know, about 6, 7 years ago, managed to get it into a book form. In the first run at that, I didn't like, so I started it over, which happens a lot in writing. And then I found out, because I had to put it away and work on other stuff. And I found out this, last yearish when I finished the Buster book and Another New World, and I was able to start working on that a little bit, like seeing where Big Bad Wolf was. That's what it's called. When I was able to start seeing that, I realized I never really looked back at it. After I wrote it, I had to move on. So I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, hey, this first draft is actually good. It doesn't need, in some places it needs a lot of work, more grounding, more connection. But other places it's like I knew exactly what I wanted to do. I knew exactly where I wanted to go. I knew who the people were in a good way, but other people needed more time and more work. It's a dual story or a dual timeline. So I just needed to kind of spend more time working on parts of it, and I'm working my way through, going through that edit, and making notes, kind of just working my process. So no ETA on that yet, and that's a good thing for me. Like I said, I'd like to have it out, again, into next year, or into this year, end of 2024, would be ideal, but I don't know if that's going to happen. And I also don't know, in terms of art, there's so much stuff I don't get to, I haven't given up on my soap or anything. I just don't know where that's going to go. It's going to take some restructuring. It's a very time-consuming, very expensive thing to do. So I just don't exactly know what the future of that holds. I'm not stopping doing it. I just don't know exactly where that's going yet. And there's stuff that I want to do that I haven't gotten to. I wanted to get back into jewelry making and silversmithing, and I haven't been able to do that because I haven't had the time for it. And I really, really want to start making clothes, not to sell, just basically for me, things that I like, because I got to have more stuff where you can see me from like here up, for my shows. But I want that, for myself as well. And that's something I want to be able to do. And I don't really get the chance to do stuff just for myself. I have to monetize things, and I have to think about, like, will this painting sell? Will people be into this? And my instinct for that always seems to be no. It will not. People will not care. So I just need to make the things again. That's where I'm at. But speaking of which, here's something cool and new and fun. If you've been, playing along at home in the home game of this show, then you know that a few months ago, I started to kind of have like a problem where I was kind of in a position where this is also where my movie is and like my creative content. But I was having a problem where I couldn't keep my mouth shut about a lot of the political things that were going on in the way that we were living, and how I hated how we're living, and like a lot of people do, are just tired of this needless struggle that we're dealing with, and no support, no social programs, and things are going to get way worse. So I'm not going to get into the whole thing here, but I just kind of went, like, I just could not say something. So that ultimately led to, fast forward, a few months later, I hear from this independent news network called Revolutionary Blackout Network, and that I follow and I really like, and I've been following since the beginning, and who have the same ideals, as do I, that they're looking at things, like, why do we have to do the things that we're doing? Why is everybody so miserable? Why is everything so awful? It doesn't have to be this way. We don't have to be, so sick and tired and sick all the time, and have no health care, and working ourselves to death needlessly, and having to go and, be micromanaged to death by these stupid bosses, and on ego trips, and not having vacation or maternity leave, and not having health care for women, or rights for women, or rights for gay people, or rights for anybody. So they were like, hey, you want to talk about it? And then I was like, yeah, I do. And we started up a show. And that was going on at the same time as all the book stuff and the interviews and everything too. I was training to go on, be a presenter on this news network. And it's the difference is like I can come here and it's hard. It's kind of hard because I can come here and talk out of my ass and nobody cares and nobody corrects me. But I've got to be like on the ball there for that. I've got to be on top of everything. Yeah, somebody said don't forget the genocide. Of course, don't forget the genocide. And then there's genocide. We're right in the middle of a goddamn genocide sandwich on everything else, on top of everything else. So there's been some things that I needed to talk about and needed a good place to talk about it to keep from getting my goddamn page shut down. So now that I got that opportunity and I'm so happy to be a part of it. It's so exciting. We developed a show. And I say we because this is a funny story. And I think I might have told it before, but it's worth repeating. But so they allowed us the freedom to create a show about what we wanted to talk about. Some people want to do topical news, like, you know, like your kind of like your cable news style, like here's some topics and we'll talk about it. But I wanted to have the idea more of like, we know what the problems are. Let's look for solutions. Let's look for community solutions. Let's look for mutual aid solutions. Let's at least try to go in that direction and not be so gloom and doom all the time. So when we were in our meetings, about how to go forward, they're like, come up with a show, figure out what you want to do, and here's the pool of people that we've invited to this pair up. And I didn't know, nobody knew each other in this. We were just going to these meetings, and it's like, okay, because I was prepared to go on alone because I do this kind of thing, so I was used to it. But then they were like, pair up, and it was kind of on the spot. And because it came like, okay, well, what day do you want your show on? And I said what day I wanted my show on. And then another guy says, okay, I want that day too. And then they were basically like, okay, you're paired. And we did not know each other. Like that's how, this is the only way that like we have known each other. Like we just wanted the same day. So what ended up happening is, and I mean like I don't know, it was like a kind of a divine intervention type of a thing, I think. I get paired up, myself and this other person get paired up, and we'd never met, we'd never spoken, we didn't know each other in any way, we didn't follow each other in any way, never heard of each other. Turns out he's also an entertainer, super talented singer-songwriter, right? His name's Jared. And we get to talking. I said, like, we're going to go into a show together. Let's do a phone call. Let's kind of have a meeting of the minds before we started our show. And we started it back in November. It was our first, when we were begun. And we were right on, like, the same page with where we wanted to go with the show, what we wanted to do with it, and where our ideologies about life were. And we clicked right away. We were very compatible in that way. And he's an entertainer, I'm an entertainer, but we're on different fields and that kind of a thing. So we go on. We really like where the show was going. We're really enjoying it. It's called Social Contract. And it's on the Revolutionary Blackout Network's YouTube channel and their Twitters and things like this. They broadcast it live. Somebody's saying that watches the show saying that they really enjoy. They really enjoy it and they really enjoy him. He's a really cool dude, honestly. I could not be happier with my partner. Because I'm not really a mutual person, like, oh, surprise, right? Like, it's just because I'm always so used to going solo. It's really like group projects have never really been in my wheelhouse. I've never really had the opportunity to really team up with anybody, or if ever having done, it did not go well. So it's just, you kind of get to a point where it's like, I'll just fucking do it myself, right? So you don't think about, like, this could be a good thing. So, but I wouldn't do it, like, really open-minded, like, which is not how I normally am about stuff like that, because, again, I'm just like, I just do it myself. So I was like, no, I think there's something here. This guy seems pretty cool. And we got a good start. We got a good flow going. And then he and I, like, have a really good on-air bond. We're really, really good together. The way that we kind of connect, the meeting of our minds is really good. And we do have that same kind of mindset of, like, how can we make things better? So we talk about things that are topical, but we also go, like, topic-based as well about, how can elections be better? How can life be better? How can healthcare be better? This kind of thing. So we've had about 4 or 5 episodes so far, and then we broke for the holidays. And we're going to be back this coming Tuesday, 1 p.m. Eastern. Again, on the Revolutionary Blackout Network YouTube and Twitter. You can just Google us and find us that way, probably. But what's really cool is we do this thing. Well, I shouldn't say we, it's all him. But I kind of talked about it and he was already kind of prepared. Like every time I suggest something to him, like he's already there in his mind and it's gone both ways. We were kind of like already like mentally on the same page. So when we first started shows, I'm like, hey, do you want to close out by doing a song? And he's like, I do. So we always get treated to a really nice performance at the end of every episode. So you can come and check that out too. You know, you're going to get a nice little singer-songwriter performance. Sometimes he does originals, sometimes he does covers of just whatever he's into, feeling it. And then, let's see, about a week or so ago, we talked about this because we're in the beginning phases of all of this. So it's like we had some ideas about what we wanted to do and where we wanted to go with it, but we just really hadn't had the time to flesh it all out yet. So he wanted to come up with a theme song, a unique theme song for our show. And I was like, hell yeah, bud, I want to do that too. Right? Like, I think that's great. But, you know, obviously, like, my musical talent stops at appreciation. Like, I got nothing. Like, I can't write songs. I can't play instruments. Like, I can drum, but that's, like, who can? So, I can do that, but that's it. But he messages me. He's like, okay, what are you thinking for the song? And do you like this one of mine? I'm like, I listened and I'm like, I fucking love that, bud. And he's like, cool. I'm going to work on the song. And I'm like, okay, cool. And I figured like this is gonna take like some intense work on his part, like some like long, like agony, like, you know what I mean? He comes back like 24 hours later, he's like, here it is. I was like, shit, man. So he sends me this song and it kicks ass. First of all, it was like this other song that he had done, and I was like, I like this, I really like this a lot. But we have a really upbeat kind of vibe. We don't just sit there and gloom and doom and bitch and moan and everything like you see on like cable news. So we have like we make each other laugh and stuff, and we're always kind of just on kind of like an upbeat kind of a thing. So he sends me back this song. It's like this like kind of almost like it's a cappella first of all, but he layered all these tracks of himself. Like he's background vocals of his own self. Like it kicks ass. Like it seriously kicks ass. And I was so excited about it. I'm like, man, this shit is awesome. But he also knows that I'm a filmmaker and an editor, so he kicks it over to me, and I say like, okay, I'll make us something. And what do you think should be in it? And again, we were on the exact same page about what without having said anything. So our unagi was going again. So I spent a few days last week or so making a video for it. Kick it back over to him, and he's like, I love it. So this is the first time our creative prowesses were able to come together, and it was really good success. So we now have a theme song, a unique theme song for our show, Social Contract, and it is on my YouTube channel. It's I forgot to make it public because I was sending it privately to him. So I got to make it public so you guys can all see it. But it's going to be in the intro of our shows from now on. And it's going to you can watch it independently there as well. I just got to make it live, so you'll be able to see that. But I'm super excited about it, and we got a lot of cool and interesting content coming up in the new year that we'll be talking about. So once again, live every Tuesday at 1 p.m. But you can check it at Eastern. But you can check it out anytime you want to. You can go to the channel and find it. You can probably just go and type in Social Contract straight into YouTube and find it that way as well. But again, it's on the RBN for short, but it's Revolutionary Blackout Network Long Beach chapter. So you can check us out. Check out the show. We like to take live comments if we can manage to shut up long enough to get them. So you can comment along live. You can also catch us on social and say, hey, what do you guys think about this? Do you want to talk about this? We're totally open to hearing from you because we feel like this is a community effort and we need to hear from the community of people to make it a success. Like, you know, we want to know about people's experiences. We want to know what you're going through, you know, what you're dealing with, because we deal with our own experiences and we bring it up as much as we can. And it's just kind of this, like I said, like this divine stroke of luck that we both just happen to be entertainers right there on the same page. So we have these different perspectives on our lives and careers coming up in our different disciplines, you know. So, but we like to hear from other people as well. We don't want to be so insular that we're just thinking about ourselves, but you know, we want to know what your work lives are like. We want to know what your struggle is like what you're dealing with. So always reach out to us. And again, on me, for any reason, you can catch me on my socials. I post them in the description box of each one of my episodes of this, as well as my Meanwhile Back at the Ranch episodes, which is exactly this, but just about movies and TV and things like that, which I didn't have last month, but I will have a new episode for you probably this month, schedule permitting. Finally, and I'm hoping to finally, I meant to do this way earlier, but I just couldn't manage to get to it. Other topics were coming up, but I want to get to another review episode. I've seen a lot of really excellent shows, and I want to throw out recommendations and reviews and kind of get back in another episode of that. I was trying to make that into a regular thing. It didn't work out. Hopefully I can from here forward, but that's the next episode of When You See Me This Way. I go to another room and use different equipment for the RBN show. So I also sit in front of a wall, but it's a different wall. A wall and a curtain and a wall and a curtain. So it's a different situation for there. And I think I pretty much covered everything that I wanted to cover. This is, I think, going to be a good start to the new year. Looking forward to being able to have some very open discussions about what people are feeling and living, and how life is being for everyone, and the kind of things we can do realistically, you know, the realistic kind of things that changes we can make about what works and what doesn't. And it's like, oh, well, you know, I might want to donate to a charity. Well, which ones not to do, like the main ones, and how to use mutual aid, which RBN does great work with their mutual aid programs. Really great work. So if you're in a position where you can donate money to worthy causes, and have that money literally accounted for, check them out. Check out Revolutionary Blackout Network on Twitter, on YouTube. Probably just Google it. I got a website too. And then we are a show on that network. So that being said, I will see you the next time you will see me in any form or fashion will be on my next RBN show, and then I'll be back here later in the month for another Million Movie Project. I'm going to be having more art coming. I will be I'll put out some updates about how Big Bad Wolf is going, and as always, you're free to reach out to me, ask questions, comments. Please share with your Buster friends the book. Another New World. Let me show it to you one more time before we take off. Here it is, Another New World, sequel companion book, like the sequel basically to the documentary on YouTube, Oh Buster, Where Art Thou? So check all that stuff out, share it with the Buster people in your life. It's getting good reviews. If you've read it, please leave a review, even if you hated it. It just helps other Buster people find it as well, and so does sharing. So share. Outside of that, I think we have about covered everything I wanted to cover. I'm really glad to be back, and I'm looking forward to the new year, and I'm looking forward to hearing from you all in any capacity, whether you want to talk about how things are going in life, stuff you'd like to hear about on RBN. You can check out our past episodes there as well. You can check out all my past episodes. You can watch anything in the way that you'd like to watch it. You know how YouTube works. So thank you for joining me. I'm glad to be back. Glad to be starting a new year in a new way. And I will see you all on the internet. So take care, friends. Be safe. Wear masks.